Okay, so there we go. All right, so again, just to wrap up today, a course retrospective on where we've been, what we've done, and where to go next, right? That's what a retrospective is. This course has been kind of structured like software development process, agile software development processes go with sprints. Usually it's like 4 weeks. Our sprints were 2 weeks. But at the end of each sprint, you have a retrospective. You get together with your team and you say what went well, what didn't go so well, what can we do to fix the issues that we've had over the last 4 weeks or whatever your sprint was. And that's what a retrospective for this course will be. What went well, what didn't go so well, and what can be done to improve it for the future. Okay. Well, first of all, the course evaluation is your opportunity to give me that feedback. I'm more than welcome. I'm more than welcome feedback on like Piazza or something like that. If you want to go anonymous and say, "Hey, this was great. This is what we had trouble on. Whatever." You go ahead and post there, and we can take a look at that. Otherwise, the course evaluation is anonymous. It is always anonymous. I don't see that until like 3 weeks after the course is done, and I'll never see any names at all from that entire process. Right now in the main section, we've got 116 people enrolled, but only 18 have filled that out. So please encourage all of your colleagues to fill that out. In the other section, the H section, we've got 7 out of 15. I do imagine that a lot of those, a good chunk of that 116 will not fill it out because they're gone at this point. We'll get into that here in a second, right? But I would like to see at least 50, 60 people filling it out, right? So make sure that you're being thoughtful about it. Make sure that you are saying, don't just say, well, this course sucked or this course was awesome. How was it? How did it suck? How was it awesome, right? Because that's what constructive feedback is. In order to improve something, you need to know what was it, what was bad about it, and why was it bad, right, etc. Okay. The project, again, this is a project-based course. Each assignment was a phase in that project. And so it's good to reflect on that process and what you pulled out of that process or what you've learned out of that process. What skills have you acquired or whatever achievements have you unlocked or whatever, right? Well, first of all, the thing that is really, in fact, you can't teach it. Except the only thing that can teach it is experience. Are those soft skills, right? Those teamwork skills. Now, you might have chosen to work alone for the most part in the semester, but at some point you did, have at least a casual conversation with somebody about what was going on in the course and how did you debug this or how did you do that? You might not have teamed up, but you certainly had some sort of conversation with somebody about it. And that is still a form of teamwork, right? It's not a direct collaboration, but it is. Eventually a lot, I don't know, hopefully not many people had to go through it, but I do know of at least a dozen instances in which partners were changed or dropped for various reasons. And that was as a result of conflict resolution, right? It could just be simply a matter of, well, that person is a night owl, and I like to get up at 5 a.m. And that's when I do my best work, right? And that kind of conflict, well, okay, we'll have to go our separate ways here, versus something where somebody wasn't pulling their own weight and they had to put their foot down somehow, right? But otherwise, it didn't always have to be a negative experience. Lots of people collaborated and learned how to collaborate through that process a lot better and a lot easier. And so that'll really help you going forward when, for this course, it was all optional, right? In future courses and in future work, right? It will not be optional. You cannot choose who your partners are and say, another course, and certainly when you go to work, you cannot choose who your coworkers are. Right? And that kind of conflict resolution will be absolutely a valuable skill of how to deal with people, how to manage other people. Even just some people like to call it, I guess the neologism, the new term for that is what, emotional intelligence, right? Being able to read somebody and being able to understand how they think, how they how they approach things, and working around that, right? Well, this person just needs to vent, so all right, let them bitch for an hour, and now it's over, right? Or let them let somebody have their say, or something like that. Dealing with people, dealing with difficult people, dealing also with good people, right? Because you don't want to alienate the good people either, right? So that kind of conflict resolution and soft skills, coordination, et cetera, all that comes from experience. It's not something where we can give you, here's a textbook with 50 chapters on how to, do something, right? Some people do respond to that, but otherwise, you can learn, a million different things about psychology, about teamwork, all that stuff. But when you actually go into practice and do it in real life, it's not like it is in the book, right? You have to learn that through experience. You also have expanded out your toolbox. For many of you, it's been your second programming language, Java, and your third programming language. SQL is a programming language, right? Maybe you've had Python or C or Java before or whatever, but you've at least expanded that toolbox of technical skills, right? You've now had exposure to OOP, object-oriented programming, SQL, and hopefully a stronger Git usage. If you weren't using Git for your project, make sure that you're using it in the future, right? At the very least, even if you're only using the fact that it is stored on a cloud computer somewhere, right? And so you've got an automatic backup, right? Even if you don't use branching or merging or things like that, still use Git, right? Because I don't like things being on one computer, and if something is on one computer, it is dead, right? If you don't have a backup secured somewhere else, then you might as well not have it at all. So make sure that you're using the Git skills that you've acquired over the course of the semester, and you're using it at least on a daily basis for personal stuff, right? One example would be I wrote a baseball scorecard in LaTeX, and I just pushed that out to Git to show it off, and also because I didn't want to have a thumbnail drive when I went to the print shop to print it out, right? And if it's available on github.com, then everybody can see it, and you don't have to worry about those thumbnail drives anymore, right? You have now experience in perspective building a larger project. The scale of the project that you had this semester was still very, very small comparative to real world projects. You might have had maybe a couple of dozen classes, Java classes that is. You might have had maybe 6 tables. A real project is going to have orders of magnitude greater number of classes and tables in an actual project. But you have a little bit of experience building on making something that builds on each other, so that something that you use in one phase is used in another phase, and so on and so forth, right? You also have experience with technical writing right now, right? That's something that is not in a lot of curriculum early on, but now you've written a full IEEE, what was the number? IEEE 1184 or something like that. It's some standard technical document standard, right? And you have some technical writing skills under your belt as well, right? If you took advantage of all of our drafting processes. Hopefully you have a better appreciation and better understanding of technical debt. Technical debt is eating your own dog food, right? So you should always think about your time as a resource. Time is money, right? That's a trope, but it is true. And if you do something, without any thought, without any investment up front, that means that you just do it quickly to get it done, right? Without thinking too much about it, and you have a bad design, you are taking out a loan on your future time, right? Because if you either find time to do it right the first time, or you find time to do it over the second time, right? And that's what technical debt is. You're taking out a loan on your future time from your future self. And you have no idea how much interest you're actually paying, right? So if you follow that link, I think that they call it's not really a loan, it's a naked blind call, right? So we've been doing stock options here. A naked blind call would be, it doesn't matter how high the price goes, I will still buy it, right? So it is unlimited, infinite risk to you, right? In industry, when I was in the industry, we called it eating your own dog food. I'm sure that's a that's a common term too out there. If you make something crappy, right, you should be forced to use it. We used it usually in terms of rules or policies, right? When a manager sets a policy and the manager doesn't follow that policy or that expectation, oh, gee, I wonder why, right? Because you don't want to eat your own dog food, huh? Right? So if somebody comes up with something bad, then they should be forced to deal with it themselves, because that means that they won't come up with something bad that they force on other people. And so that's what you've had to maintain your own code over the entire semester. And if you had a really well thought out, well designed, and well implemented phase 2, right, then it was nice to work with that in phase 3, and it was nice to work with that in phase 5. But if you had something bad, if you had some dog food, then you were forced to deal with it or go back and fix it. Right? Bad practices become apparent why they're bad practices, right? We design things with some thought up front so that we don't go down the wrong road. And if we do go down the wrong road, we should make sure that we are okay with backing up and starting over, right? Throwing one away. That was one of the quotes from Eric S. Raymond. Be comfortable with throwing one away. In other words, you come up with prototypes. Great, that was a great prototype. I learned something by building that. Throw it away. Let's build version 2.0. All right, now that's even better. And I learned some more things. Okay, we can throw that one away and do it on version 3.0, right? You don't build garbage on top of, you don't build stuff on top of bad foundations, right? You want to make sure that you have a good foundation all the way through. Usage of good test cases, test suites. We never really required a formal use of, or a formal implementation of JUnit, but every single one of your labs used JUnit, and you should have had exposure to it and what a good test suite looks like, right? That it's automated. You just hit one button and you know that everything works, right? And you should be thinking in the future of, when you write some code, maybe at least in the back of your mind, be thinking TDD, test-driven development, right? Where you come up with the examples, the test cases that you know, okay, well, if it's this input, it should be this output, and so that also informs your design and your implementation, right? Now, putting that into a formal unit testing framework so that you can automate those tests, that's even better, right? That's higher level thinking. Right? Poor variable names, hopefully that was beaten out of you in Computer Science 1. If not, then you've got a bad habit that you need to take care of. I only put that in there because one year we were pretty advanced. We were in assignment 7, and the group came in. This is several years ago. And the group came in and said, well, our function's not working here. It's not even executing this loop here. I said, okay, well, what is this variable name here? X, all right? What does that mean? And I go, oh, well, that's our flag variable to see if we should continue. I go, okay, so not X, not continue, right? Oh, they got their logic wrong because they didn't know what the hell the variable X actually stood for. So when they had the logic of not X, right, then it was completely wrong. They should continue executing that loop or whatever the hell it was. Also, over-engineering, right? Remember the Yagni principle? Y-A-G-N-I? You ain't gonna need it, exactly. Right? Over-engineering things, right? It could be as simple as making a name class for a person, right, that contains first name, last name, right? Throw that out, right? That's overthinking it. That's over-engineering. Bad database design, right? If we don't have good normalization, then we have repetition, and we have to, fight our design in the actual code. Right? You saw that also with JPA Tuesday, where, well, you didn't see it, the bad design, because I designed it specifically so that it would have a one-to-one correspondence between one table, one class, one table, one class, right? You've not seen really bad databases out in the wild where, nope, this one class touches 5 tables and this one table goes into these 10 classes over here. That's not a clean data model design at all, right? Or one of the worst databases that I ever had to deal with was one that had no foreign keys at all. It was just a bunch of independent tables, and just by convention, things were connected through strings. Last names, right? Yep, last names. Gee, nobody will ever have the same last name Smith, right? And then they have, and of course, when they do have two people with the last name of Smith, what do? They start concatenating stuff, right? They start spackling over leaks, right? If you've ever had to deal with leaks, like that's not fixing the problem. There's a leaky pipe. Okay, what do? We just hide it, right? And no, it's still leaking and it's still destroying the house, right? Don't do that. Don't do that in database design. Don't do that in software design. You have hopefully a better appreciation for the scope of a larger project, working and coordinating in teams, pairs at least, right, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, in the real world, you will not get to choose your partners. If you won't get to choose your coworkers. Even when you're a manager, you don't necessarily get to choose your workers, right? You can get given a team. Eventually, many of you will be managers at some point. You don't get to choose your team. You don't necessarily get to fire somebody, right? So you have to, managing people is not telling them what to do. It is putting them in the best position for what their skills are, and then making them, giving them the tools they need to succeed, right? And so, some things that you'll learn in life, I guess, right? Hopefully you're better coders overall, you're better designers overall, et cetera, et cetera. The takeaway here, we'll get to a takeaway here in a second, but hopefully you've also learned about the bad stuff, right? The impediments. Again, if you did well, great. It doesn't mean that you'll always do well in every endeavor in your entire life, right? But hopefully we've learned that procrastination never is a good long-term sustainable approach to anything, right? Hopefully you found the Gantt chart useful. All right. Again, it's something I introduced a couple of years ago, just for those who maybe have never, did the self-teaching of self, organization, right? Keeping things simply just in a to-do list or something. Keeping a calendar. If those skills are not necessarily taught, they're just, a lot of the times they're assumed, right? And they assume, well, you got to college somehow, you must have been able to manage something, right? More formally, you need tools like a Gantt chart or a burn down chart or what's it called? It's a Japanese term, Kanban chart, a Kanban board or something like that, right? The Gantt chart, it was my version for this course because I didn't want to introduce anything too complicated. A Gantt chart is pretty simple. Here's what I'm doing there. Here's what I'm doing there. Here's what I'm doing there, right? Has anybody seen a Kanban board before? No? So think about a bunch of Post-it notes, and then you've got, various, this is the things that we need to do. This is the things I'm doing, and these are the things that are done, right? And you put up all these tasks on Post-it notes, and then you put it up there so that, okay, I'm free. I'm done with my task. What do? I go to the Kanban board. Okay, there's an unused task. I take that off, and I put it over here so that everybody else knows that I'm working on that, that we're not duplicating our efforts, etc. And then when it's done, we put it over here, right? And there are electronic Kanban boards everywhere as well. You also have burn down charts. Again, you have a sprint, and you start here with this much work we need to do. At the end, it should all be done, so you should be at 0. What happens between the beginning, where you've got all this work, and the end? Well, you don't want a burn down chart that looks like this, right? Why? Because, well, you overestimated the time that it would take to do everything. You got it done on the first day, and now you're sitting twiddling your thumbs for the next 39 days, or whatever the case may be, right? You don't want that. You want nice, steady flow. You also don't want, okay, well, nothing, we haven't gotten anything done, procrastinate. Okay, now we get something done, right? That's not a good formula for success either. So what you want is a nice, steady, linear function going down on this burn down chart. Why? Because that means that you're working at the same rate every single day, right? You're not having these huge spikes of activities and these low troughs of doing nothing. The game development industry is exactly like that, and they've thrived on that, and they will never change. So, or maybe they will change. I don't know. where you do you have this final push right at the deadline, right? And you have this huge spike in activity, and once it's delivered, okay, now we take the next 2 weeks off or something, and we're not doing anything. That's not a good way of working, because you have high stress, and then you're not doing anything. You're not productive at all, right? And you start forgetting things. And you want a nice, steady workflow, right? Nice, predictable workflow. You've also seen what happens when you've got insufficient testing, right? What I like to say is, if you can run code, you can run tests. But if you can write code, you can run repeatable tests, right? And if you can read code, you can write proper unit tests. So those skills go along with each other. It's just somebody who can run code, well, they can just run the test. They're not going to understand how the code works. They're not going to understand why the tests run, right? But if you can add higher and higher cognitive thinking, you can get down to, okay, I didn't touch anything. You can get up to reading code, right? So in the years past, we've tried, if somebody screws up on, say, assignment 2, then what we've tried before is, okay, well, we'll give them a copy of the best version of assignment 2, or the instructor in version of assignment 2, right? Thinking that, all right, well, you screwed up on this stage. We'll go ahead and give you that stage to start you back at square one, so that you can do stage 3 or stage 4, stage 5, right? We'll put you back on track. It has never worked. There's not been a single instance in which that has ever worked. They can't read somebody else's code. That requires a higher level of understanding, a higher level of cognitive skill than it is that it takes to write code, right? In fact, if you've ever heard of Bloom's taxonomy, right? There's research backing this, right? That it takes a certain amount of cognitive skill to write code, but to read and understand somebody else's code, or even your own code that you wrote a month ago, right? That takes a much higher level of cognitive skill. Reading is way more difficult. Reading and understanding is way more difficult than writing or creating. And it's kind of weird, because if you look at the original Bloom's taxonomy, it's exactly the reverse for every other discipline. Understanding is down here, and creation is up here. With code, it's exactly the opposite. Creation is down here, and understanding is up here. Because you would basically have to understand something, you would have to understand how to create it to begin with, to understand how it worked, right? Get yourself on the higher cognitive skill level, right? And hopefully you've seen that if you can get down to reading and understanding somebody else's code, then you can write proper unit tests, because writing proper unit tests is an adversarial thing, where you want to write a test to break somebody else's code intentionally, to show, nope, that code sucks, and here's why, right? And here's the proof, right? That's what writing proper unit tests is all about, right? Breaking somebody else's code, or being adversarial to yourself, all right? Playing chess by make a move and then go to the other side and make another move, right? Again, this is the skills objectives that I presented at the beginning of this semester. By the end of this course, you should be asking yourself, did I achieve these things? You should be able to more easily pick up and learn a new programming language on your own now, having at least 2 under your belt. You should be able to recognize, use, design, and appreciate programs of an object-oriented flavor. You should be able to design a database-backed application from scratch, given a high-level general problem statement. You should be able to understand and implement data structures, when to ask the question, not how do I break this problem down and solve it to smaller and smaller pieces. You should be asking yourself, what data structure could I immediately pull out of this toolbox and the problem is solved for me, right? Maybe a priority queue would be able to sort this stuff, a heap sort, right? Maybe I could store this stuff as a tree, and then its depth would tell me the answer to whatever I'm trying to model here, right? ... You should be able to identify and analyze basic algorithms, because you're going to be doing a lot more of it. Again, a quote by Eric S. Raymond, that smart data structures and dumb code are a lot better than the other way around. And again, in Computer Science 1, it's just getting you started on problem solving and coding, right? The higher cognitive skill is knowing when not to code, right? Knowing when to bring in a data structure, because now I don't have to write a single damn line of code, right? This is exemplified by the fact that, go back to assignment 1. Right? You might have done assignment 1 one way at the beginning of the semester. I guarantee you that by the end of the semester, you're going to do it in a completely different way, right? We suggested at the very beginning of the semester, you do assignment 1. You have a bunch of CSV data, and you want to count the number of games released by a publisher. What kind of data structure would help me do that? A map from a publisher to a list of games or a set of games, right? Knowing that kind of data structure means all I have to do is put stuff in and take stuff out now, right? It's all taken care of by the data structure. Literally, it's like 5 lines of code when you've got the right data structure. Or at the end here, when we looked at heap sort, you put stuff in, you take stuff out, and that's it. It's solved. That sorting problem is solved for the rest of my life, right? By the end of this course, you should be able to approach a reasonably complex problem and ask design questions first. What entities or objects do I need to model this problem? How do these objects interact with each other to solve the problem? And then, of course, what data structures can I pull off the shelf to solve this problem so that I don't have to worry about it? Right? The big takeaway that I wanted you to take away from all this is that you may have struggled in this course. You may have done some things the wrong way, or lots of things the wrong way. That's okay. That's part of the learning. Next time, if you were to take this course over, don't take this course over, of course. But if you are, the next time you do something like this, right, you will do better, right? You won't make the same mistakes twice, as long as you realize what mistakes were made. The other takeaway that I usually put this in a lecture on multi-tier architecture, which we skipped this semester, is that computers, whether or not you consider yourself a computer scientist, a computer engineer, or a software engineer, or maybe a couple years from now, I'll add data scientists on this, because why? We need new names to describe the same stuff over and over and over again, right? Everybody here has to be, in some way, you have to be a lawyer, right? Because you have to know, say, I want to use this software. Is it okay? Right? Well, in this class, in the context of this class is, I found this code online. Is it okay academic integrity-wise to use this, right? In the real world, that question becomes, is somebody going to come and sue me for using this software, right? And how do we CYA? There's another nice acronym. CYA? No? How do you cover your ass, right? Et cetera. You have to be a little bit of a philosopher, right? When you approach a problem, you have to understand the problem, and you have to be a little bit of a philosopher to think about the problem, right? I put thinkers down at the bottom. I should have put philosophers, thinkers together, right? You have to be a bit of a diplomat, because, again, that's teamwork, right? You have to work with other people. You have to have that conflict resolution. You have to have the emotional intelligence. There's another neologism that we have to create new words to describe old stuff that's been around for a long time, right? And you have to be a diplomat, and you have to understand other people, the way that they work. More importantly, you have to understand yourself and the way that you work, right? And knowing, no, if I put it off to tomorrow, it's not happening. So I need to do it today. I'm not motivated by, getting it in the can and being done. I'm motivated by the process, or I am motivated by this thing or that thing, right? And then you have to make sure that you're setting yourself up for those motivations, right? You also have to be a manager, because you are lots of software development teams nowadays. The entire agile philosophy is that software development teams are self-managed. There are no managers. And so you have to be your own manager, right? You have to manage your team, the rest of your team, and co-manage each other, basically, right? Now, whether or not that's true as far as who has the ability to fire somebody, right? Or give out rewards or demerits or whatever the case may be, that's an entirely another story, right? But most organizations are becoming flatter and flatter and flatter, rather than this deep hierarchy, right? And more interconnected. That can be a good thing. That can be a bad thing. It all depends. You also all have to be designers and creators, right? it is a technical skill, but the technical skills require creativity. They require thinking and designing and stuff like that. It's not the same thing as I couldn't draw a picture other than a stick figure to save my life. That's a different kind of creativity, right? But everything that you've been doing this semester is a creative process, right? You also have to be a writer. Why? Well, you have to write code, but you also have to write for other people, not just other machines. Not other machines, just not for machines, right? Thinkers, and I put at the very end here, programmers. Why? Because all that stuff feeds into the actual programming. If you ask somebody who's senior, who's been out in the real world for 10 years in various software development houses or various job positions, you'll ask them, what percentage of your daily activities are actually coding, right? Actually writing code. And they'll probably tell you 10, 15, 20%, right? Another 20% reading code. Another 20%, hopefully not 20%, of meetings, right? Or discussing code, interacting and communicating with other people, right? Et cetera, et cetera. Now, the world has changed, but none of these things have changed, right? How we do things has changed, but the things that we do have not changed, right? And what I mean by that is, when did COVID start? 2020, something like that, early 2020, right? We now live, hopefully, in a world of sustained work from home and remote. I'm right here. I mean, this is what we did before COVID too. So if you're watching on YouTube, this is nothing new. I was doing this 2 years before COVID, right? And I will continue doing this. Now, the disadvantage is I only have about a dozen of you sitting here actually interacting with me or listening to me. But then we've only got 5 other people online right now. But when you look at the view list later on, and when you look at the subscription list and stuff like that, it looks a lot better, right? So that's all asynchronous, right? Why should we be forced to work from 9 to 5? Why should we be forced to? I have to be forced to, but why should we be forced to show up here at 11 o'clock every day, right? You will, certainly by the time that you've gone out into the world, like when you've graduated and you're looking for your first job, one of the first questions you should ask is it remote, right? Because that kind of flexibility is probably worth a 30% higher pay or 40% higher pay. It all depends on you, right? And what you, I left industry and came back to this job because I wanted more flexibility, ironically enough, right? I didn't want to show up in a goddamn polo every day in khakis and at 9 o'clock and feel bad about leaving at 5 o'clock. We go till 5 o'clock here, right? Well, no, you're salaried. You don't have to be here till 5 o'clock, but everybody else is here, right? That kind of culture is stifling. That kind of culture is terrible. And how do you know whether or not the company has that kind of culture, right? Internships, and we'll talk about that here in a second. You should be getting internships. How many of you have an internship for this summer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Make sure that you're getting them as early and as often as possible. Every summer you should have some sort of an internship, right? We'll talk about that here in a moment. But again, we're living in a world now where some companies are trying to force people to come back, and guess who they're going to be able to force to come back? The worst employees, right? Because the best employees, they can go, no, screw this. I'm going over to that company over there that allows me to work from home, that doesn't require me to live in a high cost of living area, eating my paycheck and costing me an hour commute every day, right? People have choices, right? Top talent has choices. And you will quickly find companies that do not give that choice will quickly learn that that's not a way to do business, right? There was somebody that was not headhunting, but looking for employees this is last year during our VR course. So we were still all masked up, and they gave me their card, and I said, California or something like that. Oh, okay, well, it might be hard to get some of these folks to move out there for just a summer internship. They go, oh no, we don't have any offices, right? That address is just our mailing address, right? It's a P.O. box. We're a 100% remote. No, we won't expect anybody to move anywhere. Right? I won't say his name, but my brother-in-law, he's been working remotely since at least 3 or 4 years before COVID, right? And he said, he wanted to go on a trip, like an extended 6-month trip. And I asked him, oh, okay, well, you're obviously going to have to quit. And he goes, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to tell them I'm not going to be here for 6 months, right? It's on them whether or not they invite me back. He's a web developer, right? He called the shots, and he was absolutely right. They came back and said, yes, please come back, right? Because we need folks, we need good folks. And it's not like, oh, can I have permission to take off for a day because of sick leave? No, right? The ball's in your court, right? Especially if you're good enough, right? Don't ever deal with that kind of crap, right? And if it is, that's a huge red flag that you shouldn't be there to begin with, right? Here's some pre-end of semester stats. This includes assignment 7. Assignment 8, of course, you haven't handed it in yet, and the design doc, you haven't handed it in, but this represents, I think, about 90% of the entire assessment. When we started this course, there were 138 that were originally enrolled. Actually, there's more than that that are enrolled, but there's always at least 20% thrashing at the beginning of the semester. People drop and add and drop and add. By the time that I think that was 2 weeks. 2 weeks in, when the actual roster is solidified, there were 138 people enrolled. Right now, 56 folks, 16 of which have, or 56 folks have A's, including 16 that have better than 100% because of all the available bonus. Right? 29 B's, 14 C's, 4 D's, 15 F's, and 22 people have withdrawn. It's no longer possible to withdraw without an appeal of some sort. So those numbers are pretty much stable. If you want to just look at one cutoff measure is between, like, you need a C or better to go on to the next course. If you use that as a cutoff and look at all the A, B's, and C's, 70% of the entire course are above that bar. About 30% of the course are below that bar, right? And I can tell you that the 90% of the F's and W's were F's and W's in the first week. Right? They generally just don't show up for whatever reason, right? I don't know why. It's a mystery to me. You're all here, so it might be a mystery to you. I've attempted to make inquiry. Like I send everybody a survey. They have access to the same end of term evaluations that you do. Barely any of them ever fill it out. It's always what is your expected grade in this course? A, B, or C, right? They don't bother to give what happened, right? Now, granted, a lot of them is beyond their control, right? They had maybe a tragedy in their lives, understandable. They had to go to a hospital for whatever reason, right? Understandable, right? You take that mulligan. I'm not a golfer, but that's a general term, right? A mulligan, right? A do-over, right? You take that mulligan and you come back and you do it again, right? But otherwise, I mean, that's nothing new, right? Every course for the last 10 years has been a 70-30 split. 20 to 30% fall in the below the line there, right? I don't know, if you do have insights, let me know on the course evaluation, right? If you know somebody who had to withdraw or dropped out or whatever, right? Let me know what happened in their lives that is something that within our control that we can take care of, right? They weren't prepared for the course, right? Well, why weren't they prepared for the course, right? I'd really like to know that. There's the honors section you're not interested in. What you have remaining at the end of this course is assignment 8 and the design document. So even if you are, above the line there, right? If you don't do either one of those, you could find yourself below the line. So make sure that you're doing those two things. They are due on this Friday by midnight, I want to say, right? Both of them are PDF hand-ins through Canvas, so we're done with Code Post. All of our feedback will be directly in Canvas, written on the document itself. Make sure with your design document that you're looking at all of our reviews of all of your drafts up to this point. Make sure that you're looking at all the retrospectives that we posted on Piazza of here are the common mistakes, right? If somebody missed it and didn't give you that feedback on a particular draft, at least look at those so that you know, okay, I need to take care of that. If you had inconsistencies among your drafts, somebody did post that, and I endorsed that question because I thought it was a good question. Right? Just ask for clarification. Right? LAs are not perfect. I'm not perfect. Right? Somebody could have missed something. Somebody could have had a fundamental misunderstanding. Maybe when they went through this course, they turned in a crappy design document and were given an A on it, and they thought, okay, well, it must be good, right? Who knows? A million things could go wrong. The whole idea of having different eyes on the document throughout the semester was so that if you did have that one bad experience, right, you had at least maybe 4 other good experiences or at least average experiences, right? Of course, there's no final exam, so finals week, I don't know when. I think it's scheduled. The final exam time for this course is scheduled on Wednesday. Doesn't matter. Once you turn in the assignment 8, once you turn in the design document, and please fill out the course evaluation, you're done. Right? Now, we're not done. We still have to grade that stuff and get it back to you. But ultimately, we'll post final stats on Piazza and let you know how everything went. Right? Where do you go from here? Right? So 3 things that I want to tell you. First of all, academics. Most of you might have already taken 235 this semester, 235 or 235H. Discrete math, it's a companion to this course. If not, if it couldn't fit into your schedule for whatever reason, you'll be taking that at some point. You'll be going over, in much more depth the fundamental mathematics that supports all of the stuff that we did this semester, right? You'll look into functions. You'll look into relations, logic, proofs, graphs, all that stuff. Relational database management systems. What does that R stand for again? Relational, right? Where does that come from? It comes from discrete math and relations. Relations on a set, right? You've seen that in discrete math, right? Transitive, reflexive, all that stuff. All that stuff is relations. Well, how do we design tables? Through relations, right? And all the math that you learn from discrete math is going to serve you well as a foundation for understanding everything else in the curriculum. This is Computer Science 2, so what comes after it? Computer Science 3, that's not the official title. But for this department, it is CSCE 310, right? I do believe that there are 3 sections next fall. There's 1 section this summer if you're choosing to take it online. I repeat my extension to anybody who's interested to taking 310H in the fall. That's my course. I've got more than enough folks in it already for it to run. But if you're interested in that, let me know because I'm the instructor. I don't know who the other 2 instructors are. I think one of them is Brady Garvin, and I don't know who the other instructor will be at this point. But there will be 2 other sections to choose from, right? What else is in your curriculum? You could go on to, Calc 2? Or if you're in Calc 2, Calc 3, you may or may not require that. I don't know. Differential equations? That's fun, right? What else? Stats, I guess. I'm just naming math stuff because that's all I know. Take history of rock and roll or whatever. Yeah. Not making it sound fun?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Algorithms and data structures is what it is, right? Where's my syllabus? Do I have a blurb? Well, here's the official description. This is not my description. This is the catalog description. A review of algorithm analysis, asymptotic notation, and solving recurrence relations. Advanced data structures and their associated algorithms, heaps, priority queues, hash tables, trees, balanced binary search trees, and graphs. Algorithmic techniques including divide and conquer, transform and conquer, space trade-offs, blah, blah, blah. And then finally an introduction to NP Completeness. Right? There's my interpretation of it, which is going to be just a quote by Edgar Dijkstra here. Computer science is no more about computers than astronomy is about telescopes. So when I took the equivalent of 310 as an undergrad, I don't even think we had any programming, which was terrible. But that tells you how much more theoretical it can and should be, right? Oh, yeah, this is a much better quote. This is a great quote. I have no idea who this person is, right? But that's forever. Good job, Charles. If you want to be a good programmer, you just have to program every day for 2 years. If you want to be a world-class programmer, you can program every day for 10 years. Or you can program every day for 2 years and take an algorithms course, right? So once your mind has been open to something like that, to data structures, algorithms, and at a fundamental level, then again you'll be asking yourself what data structures, what algorithms can I pull off the shelf and to solve this problem and get it done like that, right? High hacker rank or whatever it is, right? Stuff like that. There's my lecture note set. Otherwise, OpenDSA is an excellent book. Algorithms by Jeff Erickson, excuse me, is. This is my syllabus, by the way. This is the topics are going to be the same in all of them, but does that help as a description? I mean, you're going to be doing, if you want to take a look at last fall's fall 21. Here's the course link. What did we cover? We covered brute force algorithms, right? So backtracking algorithms of recursion, using recursion to solve something, and oh, nope, that doesn't work, back up, try a different solution, that doesn't work, back up, try a different solution. Divide and conquer style algorithms. In the H section, we cover a little bit of public key cryptography as an extra. Matrix multiplication, Huffman coding, not encryption, but compression. Balanced binary search trees, hashing and hash-based data structures, and then graphs and graph algorithms. Those are the core topics. Mine is 100% assignment-based, no exams. It's no walk in the park. I don't know. David, I think, David was one of the LAs. He can tell. He took it that fall. Ask him all about it. Get the true story from him. I don't know. It's always better to ask another student, to ask a faculty member of, because no faculty member is ever going to say, "Don't take that from that person." That would be completely unprofessional. Ask another student. Maybe don't even go into the Discord and ask, because we can see. I think there are only 3 of us on the faculty on the Discord, right? Find somebody on the Discord and then DM them on which one should I take, right? Ask them for that. Don't ask me. Anyway, Computer Science 3, it's a continuation of everything that you've done here. I would characterize it as more programming, more programming, more algorithms, more data structures. Right? Professionally, again, I'm going to tell you, do internships. That is the only way that you learn about different company cultures, right? For example, here, we have our exit where is the Discord? Oh, no. Did I close my Discord? Oh, no, here it is. This is a publicly available Discord, so who cares, right? It's on. All right. Bonita and Brady are probably the only other. Oh, and Dyer is also on here, but he's not online right now. Anyway, every year we have an exit interview for. Sorry, this is kind of small. I can zoom in a little bit. Every year we have a exit interview for all of our graduates. There's the number that you should pay attention to there. By the time people have graduated from this School of Computing now, 77% of them have reported at least one internship, and the majority of them have reported at least 2 or 3 internships. Right? 1/3 of them continued with the same company. right? If you're a good intern, they're going to want to, that's why they take on interns, because they want a, unfortunately, cheaper employee that they can have basically an extended interview with, right? And they will say, we want you to continue here, right? In fact, one year, a student came to me and she asked, as condition for continuing the internship, they gave me this thing that looked like a contract that said that I would guarantee that I would accept the job offer after my internship is done. And well, first of all, that's not a legal document. Don't worry. Go ahead and sign it. It has no legally binding stuff anyway. And I said, and second, don't feel bad about signing it and then going somewhere else, right? Because I think she said that, she had signed it, and then she said, I've got an offer from Microsoft. And I said, no, there's no such thing as loyalty, all right? Loyalty, companies want you to believe that there is such a thing as loyalty, but it's only one way. They expect loyalty from you. They don't expect loyalty from them, period. All right, and I advised at the time, no, take that dream job with Microsoft, forget about it. And she goes, well, I don't know. No, there's no loyalty there. There's no predictability. Guess where she worked? TD Ameritrade, right? Which was subsequently, literally 6 months after that, was subsequently sold and restructured, right? There's no loyalty, right? There's no predictability, right? Do for yourself, right? And your family and everything else, right? But be happy doing it, right? Don't accept that that DoD job that has you designing bombs to blow people up just because it pays $200K or something, right? 2/3 had a job lined up before graduation, right? And quite honestly, the 1/3 that did not already have a job lined up were because they were still deciding, or because they had not even bothered to apply yet. They were just going to take the summer off for whatever reason. So we claims that we have 100% job placement, 95%. But understand that it was very good, and it's right now the job market is only even better from a year ago. Right? The range was huge, but that's because of the types of jobs people were looking into. That low end there, that 40K. That was because somebody re-upped with the military, or some insanely small salary. I don't know. Aren't they OTs or what? OS? What's the level of military? They're the GSs and OSs or something like that. Oh, like the top is 13, is it? What is it? GS13, right? And then you're maxed out or something. Yeah, so they re-upped at like a much lower level for some 40K. No, what? It's because they were going to the National Guard or something like that. That 125 is also a little bit high. That's a total compensation, and that of course is in Redmond or Seattle or California or whatever. I do know of somebody that got 170 at Amazon, that 140 base with the 30,000 signing bonus. Those are not uncommon, but do not think of those as the average either. Right? If you want to know about the averages, if you stay in Nebraska, it's gonna be lower. Right? Nebraska is a great place to get an education. It's not so great to stay for a job. You will have at least, what is that, 22,000, this is only a mean, right? And you will have at least 20,000 more going outside the state and expanding your horizons. So if you've got roots here, if you've got something that pulls you here, great. I do, that's why I'm here. And I only in extreme circumstances would I consider moving. But if you're young and you don't have roots, then yeah, definitely apply everywhere. Don't just apply to those down in the Haymarket or up in Omaha or something like that. Right? The top 10 salaries were outside of Nebraska, of course, right? Because we are a low cost of living. Right? Now the dream is get that 170,000 Amazon job, make sure that it's remote, and then you can live here. right? With all the, in fact, go out into the country and buy a 50 grand house, ranch style or whatever, and be raking it in. Find somewhere with decent internet first, but not just out in the nowhere country, because that is going to be an absolute necessity. But I always tell this story of when I was in industry, we had somebody who did the exact opposite. He chose to live in the middle of San Francisco and work at a Nebraska company getting paid Nebraska wages. And every time he came back, we told him he was an idiot. I think he had other sources of income, so he was perfectly happy and content doing that. I think he had extended family considerations for doing so, maybe. Anyway, several of those higher salaries were in high cost of living areas, but most of them were actually regional. Garmin is an excellent company. They're in Kansas City, Missouri, or are they on the Kansas side? I forget. I don't know. Epic is another one that has come quite often to campus. They're a medical software company based in Madison, Wisconsin. Right? So these are regional areas, right? Epic, Garmin, etc. They're all very, very similar to Lincoln, Omaha. Culture, population-wise, sprawling suburbs where you can get decent housing for new construction for very low cost, or relatively low cost, I should say. Don't buy a house now. Wait until it crashes, then buy a house. Right? And buy 3 houses. Anyway, those are very, very similar to historic averages, right? There's 76,000 average, 90,000 average, and I'm sure that it's only gone up. I'm very, very interested to see what it will be in May 2020. Well, this month when these come out. Of course, I will be providing those in Discord, and you can read all about it there. Somebody else asked about it a while ago of, well, what kind of companies do people get their internships at? And so I said, all right, well, I went back through the data and I grabbed them all, eliminated duplicates, and then posted that. Where is it? There we go. And that's not the entire full list either. But if you're, and I only limited it to Lincoln and Omaha because a lot of people for internships, sure, don't go to California for an internship, unless you like to, right? Go to Hawaii for an internship, right? For a summer internship or whatever. But all of these are local companies that have a substantial IT department or software development department of some sort, right? Some of them are quite obvious. For example, Flywheel, Spreetail. But Fiserv, for example, is a .NET house, I believe, C#, and they're all financial or banking software, right? Others that are less, Werner Enterprises, that's my old employer, so I'll plug them a little bit here. They gave me a good home for a couple of years. It's a trucking company, right? No, you're not going to drive trucks. I mean, you see the trucks on your way in. And you're on your way out, but otherwise, I don't even think I don't even think I passed a truck until I got out into the interstate. But they have when I was there, they had over 300 software developers. Why? Because all of these companies are software companies. Every company is a software company. Because if you're not doing stuff on software, if you're not doing stuff on computers, you're a dead company, right? When I was there, one client that we had, it doesn't matter, it's been over 10 years, was Bass Pro Shops, right? And we were basically offering them software as a service for automating some of their stuff, automating their routers of tracker boats, these fishermen boats, and they're all produced in, I think, Missouri. They're all manufactured in Missouri, and of course they have to make it all the way across the country. And up until that point, they were employing 3 little old ladies in a little tiny office to do everything by hand and to do everything by paper, right? And all we had to do was get them set up on our software, and those 3 little old ladies, their jobs, they weren't fired. Don't worry about the 3 little old ladies. They just found them other things to do, right? It saved 3 jobs and it freed up 3 jobs to do something else that they were not doing already, right? That's what automation is all about. Freeing up human resources to do human-centric things, right? Humans shouldn't be making trucking routes and stuff like that. That should be automated, right? Gallup, of course, is a big one up in Omaha. I don't know. If there's a company out there, or you know you're working for a company this summer, I don't know. Do you want to say what your internships are at? Humble brag. Yeah. Where? Highland. Where's that?
It's based out of Ohio.
Okay. Are you physically going there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, not. Sorry. They have a
Remote working? An office here?
an office on the south side.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So, tell us, how did you find that?
I went on Handshake.
Okay, you went on Handshake.
Yeah.
Right? Handshake is the employment website for UNL. How many people went to the expos, the job fairs, the career fairs, right? Like, take your resume. If you just take your resume and give it out to everybody there, right? The last one I went to was all like there were a dozen construction companies there, including Kiewit, right? And they weren't advertising construction jobs. The jobs that they were advertising was, we need computer scientists, we need software engineers, we need computer engineers, right? Why? Because that's what they do now, right? Everybody is a software company. Otherwise, like more traditional software companies are just software, not software to do something else. Don't Panic Labs is down in the Haymarket. They've got a cool office down there. Bosch. Does anybody know what Bosch is? Tools? Yep, exactly. Tools. I would be floored if any of them are manufactured in the United States anymore, but the actual software that does all those logistics, I'm sure, is all in-house, right? All right. So, and also you get stuff like free pizza, or hey, here's a cool game that a senior design team produced this last year. Play it. Have fun, right? So, internships. Even if you're not going to be doing an internship, stay frosty. Take the summer, learn a new language, learn a new framework, build a project, right? Build a game, whatever your interests are, right? Build something over the summer so that you are not losing out on your skills. I remember being an undergrad and I just wanted to take the summer off. When I came back that fall, I said, oh crap, how do I program again, right? Don't do that, right? Stay frosty. Departmental, stay in touch. Get on that Discord, right? Because it is crickets, right? There's not that much activity going on. There's your QR code for joining if you're online. There's your Discord invite as a tiny URL if you want to copy that down. The Student Advisory Board runs that. If you want to, get involved with the Student Advisory Board. Become an officer in it. Help improve the School of Computing, not the, I keep saying department or whatever. Stay in touch with Bits and Bytes. I know that people, whenever somebody asks, how do I get an internship? Okay, well, have you been reading Bits and Bytes? Have you been going to, remind me what the name was again of the website? Handshake. Have you been going to Handshake? Have you been going to the career fairs that we've been posting on our Discord and on our Bits and Bytes and on our Piazza, right? No, I haven't done any of that stuff. Okay. Well, that's why you don't have an internship, right? They don't just come to you unless, they will come to you if you give them your resume at those job fairs, right? And they'll call you back. Does that QR code still work? All right, excellent. Right, must be a permanent invite to that Discord. But otherwise, thank you. Thanks to all the students who helped on Piazza. Thank you to all the learning assistants and the course leaders. Hopefully you nominated your favorite, and we'll find out who won this afternoon at the award ceremony. If you want to attend that, that's in the Shore Center starting at 3:30. And I think that there will be food there. I was told some sort of Mexican theme, so that you've got maybe nachos, maybe some salsa. I've never found a hot enough salsa sauce, so I'll be bringing my own hot sauce if I've got enough to share. I don't know, maybe hopefully churros. That'd be great, right? But otherwise, we're going to have a celebration. Hopefully you nominated your favorite learning assistant, and hopefully they won. Thank you for everybody that took this class. Hopefully you had fun. A lot of you took maybe Computer Science 1 and 2 from me this entire year. I understand you're done with me. You're going on. I encourage you to make sure that you're taking as many different computer science courses with as many different instructors as you can, right? Have a great summer. Again, if you're taking summer courses, great. If you have an internship, awesome. If you are, just sitting lazy at home, right, make sure that you're doing something, right? Come out with us and run next year. We only had, what was it, 2? No, Ryan would come, and we had, I think, 1 other person come at one point. So 4, we were up to 4 distinct students that would come out and run with us in fall. So come out and run with us next fall when you're not taking a course with me or something. Right? All right, any questions, comments? No? All right, again, thanks for taking the course, and good luck with the remainder of your other courses and your other finals if you've got any.